For the second time in the 2023 season, the Dallas Cowboys have a 40-burger, a season-high 43 points in Week 8 at AT&T Stadium as they absolutely dismantle the Los Angeles Rams in Week 8 and improve to 5-2 on the NFL season. The bye week did this team a lot of good, so it seems, at least in their first game after the bye. The Cowboys now 12-5, or excuse me, Mike McCarthy now 12-5 after a bye week. We have Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church to break it all down for you. Gentlemen, we've talked about complimentary football. We've talked about the fact that Mike McCarthy loves to set up his defense for success. Really, everybody did their job early on. They built a big lead, and they took care of business from there on out.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, I mean, this team was ready to play, and I got to give credit to Mike McCarthy because, like you just stated, 11-5, I believe, after the bye week, 10-1 after taking a loss. This guy's always going to have his teams ready to play. And then you look at it offensively, once again, Dak Prescott had an amazing game, 25 of 31, 304. 4 touchdowns. I let our resident quarterback over here break him down, but he played outstanding. CeeDee Lamb. This is what happens when you give your one of your best players offensively a chance to go out there and make plays. He did just that. 14 targets, 12 receptions, 158 yards, and 2 tubs. And that yak yardage we were talking about earlier in pregame, it showed itself in a big-time way. Every time he caught the ball, he was getting at least 10 to 15 yards after the catch. You love to see that from one of your best offensive performances. And overall, it was just a great offensive display, in my opinion.
No, you just hit on it, man. But one of the major things that I'm looking at is how they overcame early adversity. Early in this game, it didn't look like it was going to be a great game, right? You had a lot of pressure up front. He was getting sacked left and right. You found a way to extend the drive, and then you did the one thing that you've been needing to do over the past few weeks, and that is get your best playmaker the ball in his hand. They did so often. You just heard a stat line coming from Mr. BC himself, but CeeDee Lamb was able to get the ball. It didn't have to be all the way down the field. He took slants, he made first downs. He took more slants, made more first downs. Then what did that do? That brought the pressure up. Then you hit him over the top of the head, and you're able to make some big plays down the field.
Talking about over the top of the head, we got Brandon Cooks with a long today of 25 and a touchdown. So involving Brandon Cooks in this thing coming off the break was a good thing. Finding Jake Ferguson, our lost tight end, finally got him back. He got a TD. 35-plus minutes of holding the ball. That is what this team needs if we're going to still cater to our defense. That's the strength.
Yeah, I mean, this offense really spread the ball around. It wasn't incredible from a stat line standpoint, but Ferguson, Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, he was incredible from a stat line standpoint. I mean, he finished with 12 receptions, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But for the most part, all of these guys just did their job the right way, and they did so without Tyron Smith at left tackle. Nate, I'll start with you on that one. It looked dicey early on. Isaiah alluded to it, but the way that they responded was something that I think Cowboys fans should be very, very happy with.
I was trying to get past that nightmare. That right there threw me because Coach McCarthy was great coming out of breaks, and then we saw those 3 sacks, and one was nullified by a ghost phantom call. But they got it going, and they pulled it together, and they did it without Tyron. They found a hitting the short passing game, hitting CeeDee Lamb, hitting Tony Pollard out of the backfield because they had no running lanes. It seemed like they had no passing lanes, but they found a way. Coach McCarthy found a way with the short passing game that turned into big runs, and it was successful.
Yeah, I mean, you figured it out, and that's ultimately what you have to do. You know, you're going to have adversity at some point in time in the game, and it just so happened that they had it in the first series. But in that first series, they found a way to overcome the adversity, which was pressure from the opposing defensive line. Aaron Donald was eating. Defensive end and the Rams were eating. You mentioned that phantom call. Hey, every so often, it is Halloween season. You go ahead and you take that phantom call, but what do you do with it? You go out there and you score a touchdown, and that's how you have to respond. When you're giving gifts, you got to make sure that you go ahead and open up those packages.
And like you guys said, I mean, Aaron Donald, he's still that guy. I mean, he's still that guy that demands double teams, triple teams, whatever you want to call it. He's going to get that work done. Got out there and got 2 sacks, but I love what you guys said. That offense was able to respond out there. And what did we see from Dak Prescott? When that offensive line started breaking down, he started using those legs more often. He's buying time for his wide receivers to go out there and make plays, and that's the best version of Dak Prescott you can see.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit here. 20 points allowed. It was almost all in garbage time because apparently garbage time was midway through the second quarter. But the most part, the defense did what they needed to do. They put pressure on Matthew Stafford. They forced a couple big incompletions, had the turnover, the pick 6 to Deron Bland. He was fantastic. I mean, the defense did their job from the jump, and I think the rest of the team kind of fed off that.
Yeah, without a doubt, this defense is always going to give you an opportunity to win games. If you look at it, third down, the money down, they held the Rams to 4 of 12. You're always going to win when you're holding that opposing team to under 45% on third down. They were able to get that interception from Deron Bland, like you mentioned, Kyle. And they only had 2 sacks out there, but if you look at it, if you watch the game, there was pressure pretty much the entire game. Matt Stafford was under duress pretty much the entire game, and if your defense, especially your defensive line, comes to play like that, they're always going to give you an opportunity to win.
Yeah, we talked about the stat in the pregame show. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys came into this game only giving up an average of 177 yards passing per game. Well, Matthew Stafford had 162. You did a great job negating him. Obviously, late in the game, you gave up a few more yards, but it didn't really matter. Game was well within wraps. Okay, so they did an amazing job of continuing to negate teams from being able to pass the ball. You talk about 2 of the more dynamic receivers in the game today. Okay, regardless of name, you had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua that came in here and was trying to do their best to make plays on the field, but because of the pressure up front, again, for the second week in a row, right, or on second game in a row, all right, against a Los Angeles team, you were able to go out here and put pressure on the quarterback, make him uncomfortable, and because of that pressure, not necessarily the sacks, because of the pressure, you're able to force turnovers. Deron Bland, again, his 3rd interception for return for a touchdown out of his 4 interceptions on the year. That's major. That's because of that front pressure.
In our pregame show, we talked about the bear look. We talked about covering your center and your 2 guards. That's what the Cowboys did early in the game. And it got Mike off to a good start. He came in with a short crossover on the center, got to the quarterback for a sack, and it just seemed like it started snowballing from that part. I don't know what that little gorilla thing he be doing. I don't know what that's called.
It's a lion crawl. That's what it is.
Okay, it's lion. But he get that low. Okay.
They got it done, and that's ultimately the
When
case.
you see when Micah, you are a leader. And the team is going to feed how you do it. You got your lion in your pride, so you leading the pride, but we got to feed off of you, and you got to keep that same intensity the rest of this year.
Yeah, you got to keep that rolling, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time for them to have to bring that intensity because Philadelphia winning today against Washington, 7-1 going into next week's 3:25 matchup on Fox. The winner will be in first place in the NFC East because the Cowboys took care of business today. So did the Eagles, but we're going to enjoy this one for a little bit. Then it's right back to an NFC East battle. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans leaving you for the first word presented by Dr. Pepper. We have Cowboys Game Night and Cowboys OT coming your way later this afternoon on DallasCowboys.com.